My goal today is to make sure that you understand bloodborne pathogen, the stand-in. I know you had the hazard communication program, and I know you went through that, so today we're going to go through the bloodborne pathogen. It's most important that you understand exactly your role in the community and how this affects you. It's not anything new. It's been around for a while. You've taken some of the Ready Learn that talks about bloodborne pathogens, infection control, but this is just to tighten everything up and to make sure you really understand it. So first of all, I want you to know that Cornerstone has a hazard communication program. I know you've already been through that. A lot of that has to do with chemicals. And now we're talking about the bloodborne pathogen. And basically, the community is committed to making sure that they provide a safe and a healthy workplace for all of you. It takes the community, and it also takes all the associates to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to keep themselves safe. So therefore, in order to accomplish this, we've put together the hazard communication program, which you had a few weeks ago, and we're just supplementing again with the bloodborne pathogens, which is the exposure plan. Particularly, we're going to talk about the personal protective equipment. We're going to talk about housekeeping. We're going to talk about laundry. We're going to talk about nursing in every department that it affects. We're going to go over hepatitis B vaccine, and we're going to go over different kinds of communication, and we're going to talk specifically about needle sticks or any kind of an injury. To start, this copy that you have is yours, and there is, you can always, if you lose it, you can always get another copy from the probably the business office. Also, the hazard communication program, you also can have a copy of that at any time. So the executive director is really the person that is responsible for this program, just to make sure that it is followed, that it is reviewed. If there's any concerns or any complaints, that the executive director is notified and is aware of any kind of an injury. That's most important, so that is important that you always tell somebody. If something happens, you go right to your department head or to the nursing department or to anybody if you need help immediately. But you need to make sure you fill out injury reports. I know that you use Teamworks, but we also have Atlantic Charter that helps with all of that. Mostly the nursing department and the director of building and grounds are the two main departments that are going to have the personal protective equipment that you need and will be doing the training. We'll try to get everybody now. It will also be done on orientation or during that orientation time, and then it's done yearly just to review everything with you. As new things come up, we will be telling you about them as well. A bloodborne pathogen, really what it means is it's a microorganism, and it is pathogenic. When something's pathogenic, it means it's infectious. When people have contaminated laundry, so if it's soiled, has any blood on it, or if someone had an accident, anything like that, it should be bagged. And I always say to you, I think you all carry plastic bags and your gloves and your hand gel. I think you should double bag stuff like that, just to make sure that it doesn't, the bag doesn't break. I know sometimes when trash goes out, the bags are huge and very, very heavy. And to me, even those black bags, I don't know how great they really are. I'm sure that they have a tendency. There have some that have broken. If you ever have doubt, always just double bag. That's the most important thing. And if you happen to have blood, or somebody had a nosebleed, or somebody fell and really bled, then you would double glove and you would make sure that you had two bags to put that stuff in. And you would tie it up and put a label on it. Doesn't have to be a big red label, but it has to be a label that says blood, blood inside. That's really important, so that if they're destroying it, something like that, you may consider having Billy come and having him take to his department, because he has a big, an area where he has a big red biohazardous waste bag and containers, and that's where the sharps containers will also go, and I'll talk about that separately. But contaminated laundry is really important to try to remember that you don't clean it or wash it in the resident's room unless it's something very simple. But rather than that, you're going to bag it up and you're going to take it to the laundry area. Contaminated sharps are basically, they can be anything. Mostly we refer to them as needles, but it can be a glass in the kitchen that breaks, cuts somebody, and so that's contaminated. You want to make sure that you pick those up with probably a dustpan or something, and you make sure that they're put into a plastic bucket. That would be, to me, the best place, so that they don't cut through any plastic bags. Right. Yeah. The only thing about that is, putting it in a plastic bag, the edges are going to cut through. And then, maybe there's nothing on the glass but water that hits you, but if it cuts you, you're going to open up and you're going to bleed. So to me, anything like that, there should be, I would think, a plastic bucket somewhere with a cover, maybe down in the back hall or by Billy's office, that will say glass. Or like sometimes people break a picture frame, and you've got all those shards over. I mean, they'll rip you open. So I would say that you are very careful, that you get a dustpan and you get a broom. We're asking you to be safe. We're not asking you to do anything that is not safe for you. Particularly for the needle stick injuries, and I'm going to go through that separately because can happen to anybody on the outside. We know that there are people out there that are using drugs, that needles all over the place. There's been needles found in the park, in different places. I'm not saying here, but I'm just saying needles are found in the park. They're found all over. This is really huge. So you need to keep in mind that what you learn here today, I hope you will take out with you as well. Talks a lot about engineering controls, and it talks about workplace work essentials. Engineering control is really things that have been developed to make sharps injury and hazardous waste less threatening for all of us, with more safety devices. And one of them is the sharps container. We ask now that all residents in every community have a red sharps container in their room if they have any need for needles or anything like that. If somebody moves in, if you see someone come in and they've got any kind of a bucket that isn't, it would probably be the nursing assistants that would see this, immediately you go to nursing. They're going to have sharp container available. They're going to get them from the pharmacy, and they're going to have them immediately. That goes right to the room. You need to keep that in mind. And a lot of new things now is we're trying to get into every community so we can protect the nursing assistants and housekeepers if necessary, is to make sure the residents all have, and I don't have any samples, I wish I did, but they're like there's self-sheathing needles or like needleless. And basically, you have the little lancet or whatever. You see nothing, and all of a sudden, the resident pushes that little button, and the lancet little needle comes out, just does that, and it retracts right back in. You don't see that needle, they don't see that needle, and then they put it right into the sharps container. More injuries have been from needle stick, and so preventable. So what you can do in your community as well, if you notice that some residents, they probably all do not have this kind of a device, but you really should let the nursing department know, because we're going to work with the pharmacy to make sure that they get that device. So that will protect you all as well. Exposure incident is when something happens to you, when either you've been stuck by a needle, whether you have been splashed by urine or a wound dressing, whether you have gotten something in your eye. That's called an exposure. It means that you now have been exposed to a potentially infectious material. And what you want to do about that is you want to immediately, if something gets into your eye, the most important thing is to go right to the eye wash station immediately. That's the one thing you can do for yourself, and flush and flush and flush that eye as much as you possibly can, because that will save. I know we've done that before in our communities, and when I finally sent them off to see the eye doctor, he said the most important thing was that everybody went to that eye wash station and did that, and actually it prevented the person from really getting burned. So you need to know where they are, and at some point we'll stop and we'll go through the personal protective equipment, and we'll also go through the eye wash station, and just to make sure everybody knows. You know, we want to keep everybody safe. It's not like we haven't always wanted to keep everybody safe, but there are new controls out there and there are new methods, and so now we want to make sure that we let everybody know about them. An occupational exposure just means that in the occupation that we're all in, the chances, particularly for nursing and housekeeping and maintenance, we're in an environment like we're not a hospital, we're not a long-term care, we're not considered a healthcare agency, but basically in this line of work, you're seeing people that are more compromised, people that have needle access, people that may have catheters at some point. So you need to make sure that we protect ourselves. Personal protective equipment, which I know you know about, we're going to go through it and make sure everybody's really comfortable with it. And we've talked about the source. It refers to source individual all the time when it comes down to an exposure. It talks about if you get stuck with a needle, or if somebody all of a sudden has a nosebleed and it's all over and you get it. The source is the place where that blood came from. And so if something like that happens, you use TeamWorks. You would go right away to the nursing department, or first of all to your department manager, right to the nursing department. Paperwork would be filled out, and we would begin the process of making sure you're okay. If for some reason, whether you're at home or just in general, if you got stuck with something, you would make sure you took your finger or whatever it was, and you want to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and get as much blood out of there as you possibly can, so that you can make sure that there's nothing there, and then you want to wash it with soap and water, and then you want to take care of it. So, you know, immediately if you got stuck in someone's room, rather than finishing up what you need to do and going to see the nurse, you should do your own first aid as well. We talked about work practice controls, which means the basic things that we use to protect you from something happening. And you have to remember that as a community, we're providing the personal protective equipment, we're providing the training, but all of you need to make sure that you're in compliance with the rules. Some of the departments, again, I've talked about housekeeper, maintenance, the caregiver in the resident department, the nurse. These people that are handling laundry, doing direct resident care, helping with medications, all of that, cleaning the rooms, emptying the trash. Those are the associates that need to be covered to make sure that they understand all of this and they have the equipment. And the ones that we're truly talking about when it comes to the Hep B vaccine, when you come in to work here, you're offered the Hep B vaccine. We don't offer it to everybody. We don't offer it really to the kitchen or the servers or receptionists because they don't have direct care with the residents. And it needs to be offered, and then if they want it, they sign that they want it. If they don't want it, they sign that they decline. That's very, very important. You have to sign either you want it or you're not going to take it. If you change your mind 3 years from now, all you have to do is come back and say, you know, I've decided I really want the Hep B vaccine now. And remember, the Hep B vaccine is at absolutely no cost to you. Would be done through TeamWorks, but there's no cost. And if you decide 3 years from now you want to have it, there is no cost. If somebody in the kitchen or somebody was a server, probably the areas that may consider this, there's nothing that would prevent us from offering it to you if you wanted it. I want to make that very clear. There's certain job descriptions that qualify under OSHA to definitely make sure. And I think as a server and working in the kitchen, you have just as much chance of somebody falling, smashing their head on one of those hard silver metal tops, splitting their head open. Now, this is the nurse in me, sorry about that. But, when you do that, there's a tremendous amount of blood. It's a very, very, very rich blood flow area. And so there could be a lot of blood all over. And we'll talk about using a blood spill kit in a little bit and how to clean it up. We talked about engineering controls and we talked about work practices. At the end of the year, we are going to send out, which has been required by OSHA, to the housekeepers and to anybody doing laundry and to the nursing assistants. I've made up a questionnaire and it will be used to evaluate where we're at with this program. And what we can do to make things even better for you. And do you know, like in other words, somebody may have a mother or an aunt that's a diabetic and they've got this fantastic new machine, or somebody knows somebody that got something else and it makes all the difference in the world. So we're looking to make sure the training is good. We're looking to make sure that we have the right safety devices, or that we look at something new if there's something there. We make sure that we're training right. And we make sure that we're giving you the personal protective equipment. So those are the things that we will be asking you. However, anytime you feel that you have some information or knowledge, I want to mention that every month there is a quality improvement risk management meeting. It is mostly department heads, because usually when they meet, it's usually at a time when all of you are doing resident care. Personally, I would love to see some of a housekeeper, nursing, somebody from the kitchen on this committee. It could rotate, because I think you have a lot to offer. Stericycle is what we are using, Billy has in his department, where when the shop container is full, you will do a certain procedure, call the nurse, she will come up to the room, she will tape it up, she will make sure that a new one is brought up, either she brings it or Billy will bring it, and he will take the old one away, and he will take it to a special spot, red bag, which we will have a company that will come and take the hazardous waste away on a quarterly basis, because we really don't have that much. I want to talk about shop's disposal. You have a big spot here, and I want to remind you on page 6. The associate should never handle needles or touch the shop's container. The nursing assistant is going to go to the closet and bring it down, but it's going to be the outside of the container. The resident must take care of their needles. If they're not able to take care of their needles and dispose of them themselves, then you need to let the nursing department know. If any housekeeper or for some reason, I don't know if the servers go up and bring up a tray to anybody. I don't know if you do that here. Some of the communities do. And you see something's not right. You happen to see that there's a red bucket there, and you happen to see there's a syringe and needles. Even though it is the residence department, you need to come down and you need to let somebody know. We all have a responsibility for that. But the caregiver is to notify the director of resident care or a nurse, and they're to go up and go through. They'll bring a new shops, they'll tape up the one that's there, and they'll make sure that goes to Billy and a new one is brought in. And then he will take care of it with a Stericycle. I'm going to stop there so we can go through some of the equipment. I've asked Billy to help me with it.
So the blood spill kit consists of many things, and the first thing you should always do is bring the whole kit with you. You don't take pieces out of the kit and go over back and forth. Bring the whole kit with you. Inside here is all the protection you'll need, but the first thing you should always do is make sure you wear gloves. Many people have gloves on their pockets, inside their aprons or whatever they call it. Make sure you always have these gloves with you. Okay? The next thing you do is that we're talking about a spill. We're not talking about a little bit of blood here, a little bit of blood there. We're talking about a spill of blood. I don't remember the millimeters that it's supposed to be before you use a blood spill kit. But just remember, this blood spill kit is so you can pick it up with less contamination. So you take this is your sand, this is the absorbent powder, okay? It's enough to do a good circle, like a saucer full, and you put it around the blood spill, because you don't want to put it in the middle of the blood spill so you're spreading the blood. You want to put it around the blood spill and then gradually work it in with your little plastic thing here. But that's what this is for. You just move it into the area and let the thing absorb it up. The less you spread it out, the better off you are. Now, this is not a disinfectant. This is basically just sand. So it's still a contaminant, okay? So once you have everything there and you have all right in a nice little circle and piled up, you'll take this thing that I just ripped, open it up, and they used to have little dustpans, but this is cost effectiveness. This will actually be glued onto there because you're only supposed to use it once. And you'll take it and you'll scoop it up in there like a little scoop, okay? As much, if not all, can be put in there. You tip it up and you push this through. You don't take it out or put it in the trash barrel. You just take your thing here and just push it through. Then what you do is you'll take anything that, if you had any rags or tissues or whatever to sop up blood, you'd throw it in there also. You'd seal the bag. Of course, I got gloves on, see? You'll seal the bag and get it ready for the next process, and that'll be this bag. This bag is your first of two bags. You'll take the bag, you'll open it, you'll insert any products that wouldn't fit in there, like rags or whatever, and you'll put the bag inside here, and you'll tie it up. The next phase you'll do is you'll take, that's what Nancy was talking about, was a double bag. You'll take your biohazard bag. Again, every step is to make sure you get all the contaminant material. You'll open up the second one, and you'll deposit this in here. Before you close this up, you remove your gloves. So the way we were taught, pretend this is covered, but the way we were taught at the hospital was you take your glove and you put your thumb in the middle. You pull it out this way and grab it this way. Am I doing it correct?
Put that one inside of that.
Right, and then this one here gets pulled inside of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't broken, they would be.
That would be inside each other. But I mean, that's what you do. You don't want to touch the outside of your gloves, and those will go into the bag once you're all through. Tie it up and bring it where it's supposed to be brought. There's wipes in here, there's towelettes, antiseptic wipes, and so on and so forth. But everything here, including this thing, gets thrown away once we do a spill. We don't save these boxes, we save nothing. Everything gets disposed of. Then after that's all done, you'll call housekeeping. Housekeeping needs to disinfect it. The housekeeper will have, I don't have actually have a bottle, but it's a disinfectant bottle. It's an EPA certified bottle of disinfectant. We call it Oxy Plus. If you look at this bottle here, it doesn't say antiseptic or neutral quad or anything else. It just says general surface cleaner. This is not going to disinfect it. All right, so make sure the housekeeper will come there, call the housekeeper, have them come and disinfect the area. We do not clean up if the bottle's not marked. There's nothing in it. We can't clean it up or anything with it. This has got to be chucked away. The personal protection equipment, we're going to go through that?
We might as well do that at the same time.
All right. These are booties. Nancy calls them
Shoe protectors.
shoe protectors. Very simple. They fit. The line goes to the front. See the line? Goes to the front. I'm too old to stand up by myself. And it goes on. Of course, I got big feet.
Now,
Okay.
bear in mind that the shoe protector, the gowns, the mask, etc., is used basically under the direction of the nurse.
Correct.
And it would be used, which we've had before, with somebody have C. diff, I think the nursing's aware of this, or the norovirus. The one thing about the norovirus, you're all familiar with that, I'm sure, is that it lives for 7 days, that virus, on a hard surface.
Yeah.
Number one, that's why it's so contagious. And the second thing is, when you go into someone's room, if they've had some diarrhea, if they've had some vomitus, some of the stuff, the germs could be on the floor. If you don't have shoe protectors on, you're going in and you're coming out with that virus, which I told you is still alive after 7 days, and it can be carried. So under certain circumstances, if you were having a norovirus outbreak, that we would consider that through the nursing department. But I want you to be aware that you do have masks, you do have gowns, you do have the shoe protectors.
Eye protectors were needed.
Right, and the goggles are something that, to be honest with you, all the time, you should know, and we don't reuse them. If you use the goggles, we want to throw everything out. We don't want to reuse anything. If you need to put on goggles to protect your eyes, I say to the housekeepers, people that are doing laundry, when in doubt, put something on. I used to.
Right. And that equipment stays in the infected area. But just be careful and protect yourself at all times, especially when you're holding little ones or bringing stuff home. The booties are important to protect yourself and going home with them, too.
Why don't we do the eye wash?
Oh, the eye wash.
Because I want to make sure, too, that every one of you knows where the eye wash stations are and how to do that, because that could save an eye.
Up in the arts and crafts room, there's one set right beside the sink. There's one in here in the kitchen area. Am I correct? And there's one in MSN, and there will be one more put down here by the cafe. All right, eventually. So it's up on the wall like this, and you're going like this, trying to figure out how to open this thing. You can't. You have to snap it. You snap it right off and put it right on your face. Pour it right down your face. Don't care about your clothes or anything else. Just pour it. Keep on pouring as much as possible. If inside here, there's another set which I was working with Nancy on. Actually, you have to squirt it to get it to come out. These here, you don't. It just pours right out onto your face. Don't be afraid of getting water in your eyes. It's better than having chlorine bleach. Correct. Try to hold your eyelid open. Good job, Cap.
It's pretty hard sometimes, but whatever you have to do, you got to get it into your
Yes.
eye. Yeah.
And you can't get enough of it into your eye. Then you have your antiseptic to it. Most of you carry this stuff, right? Okay. Now, all these PPEs, except for the goggles, are in the RCA CNA office. The spill kits, again, I said they're in the laundry rooms, but just call us if you need any help with it.
Yeah.
If you get anything in your eyes, whether it be chemical, whether it be something from a residence, and you really need to use this eye wash kit, you got to call. Nursing will ask me for the MSDS, or what you all know it as an MSDS, but it's now called an SDS, which is universal. It's all over the country now and over the world that they use the STS. On these, I'm going to highlight emergency poison number and the precautions you have to take. Don't promote vomiting if you swallowed it. Don't flush your eyes out if you're not necessary, and things like that. So look for them here. They're in every housekeeping closet and in my office. All chemicals that are in the housekeeping closet now have a pouch with the SDSs on them and the chemical's name itself. So you'll know exactly which SMS to take. Okay?
I just want to say a couple of things that I was in a community and the maintenance director, not one of our communities, but that he had two bottles that were filled. One was filled with blue stuff and one was filled with yellow stuff. And you kind of could smell that one of them was bleach. The housekeeper had been using them. They were completely not marked. And so that is the worst thing you possibly can do. You never have anything that isn't marked. And if it is a special chemical, it will have an EPA. If it's just like a hole cleaner or something for windows, it will have its own thing. It will be in the original container. And Billy, if anybody needs to have something filled, I'm talking particularly for the housekeepers, you need to have Billy do it. It's supposed to be done. The Director of Building and Grounds will fill them, so we know. Many housekeepers have these special little things that they have at their home, or they find from a different country, and they bring them in. And even though they smell delicious and they probably work, they're absolutely not allowed. I also want to say to you that if anything gets in your eyes, you flush your eyes out. Don't ever think that you shouldn't. Anything that's in your eyes shouldn't be there. You need to flush.
Disinfectant bottles will be in the closet on the wire rack. Okay? Your resident key fits the housekeeping closet on the top. The only time the housekeeping cart has to be locked is when it's out on the floor. If it's in the closet and locked, it's just an extra safety precaution, but you really don't need to lock it. I just told them to lock it at all times.
The chemicals that really clean, that are the disinfectant that we really use for these things are EPA. They are EPA certified. And that.
With the blood filter, once the red, everything is bad, remove, clean bad. Where does that go back?
Currently, it's going to remain in there. It's in the MSN housekeeping closet. There's a big gigantic box with a red bag that looks like this, and everything goes inside there. Now, I suggest you have the housekeeper move it or the nursing move it. The housekeepers know where they are, but don't let the resident take it or anything else. We take it out of the area. Everything gets double bagged, put in the bags, brought to the laundry room, and done accordingly. She's
By
gonna bring it
themselves.
by themselves.
By themselves. And if you had that, blood's pretty hard to get out of stuff. So I'd run it through and I'd run it through again, always by itself and see what happens. But it may have to just, I'll tell you something, it's really bad. I'd double bag it and I'd ask the resident, that this is covered with blood. I don't know if we could ever get it out. Family, is it something you want to keep? We will try to wash it. Otherwise, hopefully she'll say, no, get rid of it. And it would go just would double bag it with a label saying it's, bloodborne, and get it to Billy. I would always do that if you got something in like C. diff or anybody that's got MRSA or anything like that. You'd be doing it alone, but I wouldn't hesitate to do a clean load. Just do a regular load, an empty load afterwards, yeah. I also want to remind you that you never use your gloves twice. Remember, you take them off and you get rid of them. And basically, you always wash your hands after it. I also want to say that the single most defense against any bacteria and infection is good hand washing. And when you wash your hands, you should be washing up to here. There's an old saying that you sing happy birthday a couple of times, and you really, really scrub rings and stuff like that. You should have off and really clean. As far as the laundry goes, we've talked about that. If it's contaminated, you can bag it, double bag it, put a label so you know who it belongs to, and then you would take it to the laundry room. I know that sometimes urine specimens are collected. They have their own container, and there's a label that goes with that container, and you would put them in, there's a bag that goes with it, and that they would actually be picked up by the family or the lab. If somebody did get exposed to a bloodborne pathogen, either a needle stick or something, you would naturally notify the nurse, start the procedures. You would want to have emergency first aid, which we talked about, either washing it off, doing your eyes. And then if it was something got into your eyes, you probably would be sent right away to the eye doctor or over to occupational health. And then as far as the bloodborne, if you were stuck by a needle, then we would get the paperwork started and we would get you right over there. And they're very good. They have a whole protocol at occupational health, and all occupational health, they have a specific protocol for bloodborne pathogens. The question is, if you know the source, that means to whom the blood came from. Sometimes people don't want to have their blood drawn. So if they don't want to have their blood drawn, then we're never going to be able to tell if they were infected. So you may be treated differently accordingly. They may go ahead and treat you. They may find that you absolutely do not need it, that it really was very insignificant. But that's not for us to determine. We will make sure that that's done by occupational health, by MDs and nurses that are there. We also will be evaluating if there's any needle stick or anything happens to you. We're going to evaluate exactly what happened. We're going to look at the device that was used. We're going to look at when it happened. And we're also going to look at, did you follow protocol? Did you really do what we asked you to do? Did you keep yourself safe? Or was it just us trying to keep you safe? You need to be compliant with everything. So that's really important, because otherwise, if it comes down to the fact that it really was that you weren't following some of the safety rules, naturally you would get everything taken care of. We'd get you so that you were over at Teamworks and all that was done. But at the end, there would be a review of exactly what happened. And there could be, basically a reprimand because you didn't follow the safety protocols, because this is really important. Also, record keeping, we keep track of everything. It's called a needle stick injury log. It's called a Sharps log. It is done. People that get hurt, there's an OSHA log. We keep track of it. So that also, just to let you know that we are aware of things that happen. That's why we need to know everything from you. There's also some really great handouts, particularly if somebody that never got the Hep B vaccine and they want to read up about it. Probably most of you, particularly all the young kids, kids that are in college and high school, I think you've all probably received it. It's probably a different, older generation that did not. But there is a lot of OSHA facts. I'd be happy, anybody can have anything that they want. So I want to make sure that I have covered in this training what I said I was going to cover. So I need for you to tell me if I didn't. I need you to tell me if I need to clarify anything. Again, I say to you, if there's something you don't understand and you don't want to say anything in front of anybody, then you can see me afterwards. If you feel more comfortable with the nursing or you feel more comfortable with Billy, I'm really pretty good, though. You should be really comfortable with me because I really want you to be safe. And I want you to really know. I didn't spend an hour just trying to get through this. I spent it to try to really impart to all of you the best that I can. So when you're going to sign for me, I don't think you have it yet. You didn't get the 2-page, right?
No, we're gonna be
Okay, so why don't we give those out now? No, that's not it. It's a separate.
Yep.
What it's going to say is going to be on here exactly what I covered. And I'm going to read it off, and I want you to clearly think about this. You're also going to put your name, the department, the date of training, and your title. And you have to sign the back. And I will also sign in a couple of places. Actually, Billy, you given the one out that I signed? Yeah, oh, great. Yes, they had to sign them all. So first of all, this is what I tried to cover, and if I didn't, you need to let me know. An explanation and a printed copy of our exposure control plan, which you have. An explanation of the OSHA bloodborne pathogen standard. Definition of the key words and phrases in the exposure control plan. And that would be your SHARPS container, any of your bloodborne pathogens, exposure control, all of that wording. An explanation of methods to recognize tasks and other activities that may involve exposure to blood. And OPIM is other potentially infectious materials. It could be urine, it could be a drainage from a wound, it could be fecal, it could be something from a nose, it could be something from an ear. It's every orifice in the body potentially has something that could be infectious. What we use for engineering controls and work practices, our personal protective equipment, an explanation of how you select it, your information on your Hep B vaccine, the appropriate actions to take if you get a cut or a needle stick, the procedure to follow. You're never wrong. There's a nurse here till 8, probably 8 o'clock at night. And I have to tell you, there is an emergency number for the nurse, the director of resident care. If something happens to you after hours, you need to understand there is an emergency number that will be on, and you can talk to her. She will tell you exactly where to go and what to ask for. It would probably be HealthWorks. I'm sure the hospital's open 24 hours, so that's critical. Information on what happens after you have a needle stick. It's called the post-exposure. We've talked about that. And how we follow up that incident to make sure that we've kept you safe, that you followed our instructions and what we asked for. An explanation of signs and labels required, the double bagging, the label, and an opportunity to ask questions. So, and you have the right to attend a training program, to receive the Hep B, to have access to the personal protective equipment, and to receive any treatment free of charge if something happens to you with an exposure. But you also have responsibility to follow universal precautions as described and explained in our plan. You need to use appropriate personnel equipment at all times. Never touch or handle a needle or a syringe with a needle or any other kind of a sharp. And follow all the aspects of when you clean up of